In motorsport, a split-second reaction can be the difference between breaking records and crashing into the barriers. A single unaccounted for gram of weight can add a tenth of a second to your lap time, while the right set of tires at the right moment can propel you ahead of the competition. To reach the pinnacle of the sport, man and machine must work at an optimum, relying on the talent and expertise of multiple visionaries along the way. But success is as much the product of hard work and perseverance as it is of a roll of the dice. Sure, talent can get you pretty far, but the tipping factor will always be luck. The kind of luck that lets you consistently exploit the tiniest of margins and walk away unscathed. The kind of luck that helps you discover your talents at an appropriate age, when there's still a chance to capitalize. This combination of luck and talent is rare. It's why we see so many winners but so few champions. But every now and then, the stars align and greatness is born. One of these moments came in 1974, in the Haguenau commune in France, where a child named Sébastien came into this world. Over the years, Sébastien grew up with pretty standard hobbies. He was studying to be a construction electrician and was an amateur gymnast on the side. But in his 20s, he realized his true talents, and motorsport hasn't been the same since. One morning after turning 18, Sébastien woke up, got behind the wheel of a car, and drove into a career with more highlights than all Marvel movies combined, collecting records like Thanos collected Infinity Stones. Then, at an age when most drivers call it quits and make way for the next generation, he stuck around, finishing a few additional side quests for fun, and showing the world what happens when a gifted individual makes the right moves at the right time. When Sébastien finished high school, he had a tough decision to make. The teenager already had some amazing achievements under his belt. While the rest of us work all our lives to find our niches, Loeb was in a position to carve out one of three. He had followed in his father's footsteps to become an accomplished gymnast, winning the local Alsace Championship 4 times and finishing 5th in the French National Championships. While he was still in school, he took up a job as an electrician and pursued what could have potentially been a second wildly successful career. By the tender age of 21, when most of us are desperately looking to land our first proper jobs, Loeb had already proved that he was calculated enough to become an engineer and clinical enough to be an Olympic-level gymnast. But, as luck would have it, he took a different route. Loeb combined both his valuable traits and took to the streets to discover a third latent talent: motor racing. All through his childhood, Loeb would participate in amateur 49cc moped races, battling his friends on karting tracks or in parking lots with straw bales for barriers. But when he turned 18 and was licensed to try his hand at bigger vehicles, this hobby began shaping who he was as a person. Loeb quickly developed a reputation for reckless driving and a passion for fast cars. He saved the money he'd made in his first job to buy a Renault 5 GT Turbo, which he raced down the streets of his hometown, Haguenau. By 1995, he had reached a turning point. After rising to the top of the neighborhood's unofficial standings, he had a tough thought most of us had at some point in our lives. I wonder if I can make a career out of driving fast cars. The difference is that most of us would have let this fantasy remain exactly that. Making such a massive switch in your 20s doesn't come without risks, especially when it involves jumping into something as easy to fail at as competitive motorsport. But Loeb is not like us. He rose to the challenge, quit his job, and scraped together whatever little he had left to enter France's Young Rally contest. From that point on, the rest, as they say, is history. In his first year, Loeb was chosen as the Young Driver of the Year by French car magazine Échappement. And the following season, he beat out 15,000 other drivers to make it to the French Citroën Saxo Trophy Championship, which he won in 1999. In 2000, after Loeb won the French Gravel Championship, there was no denying that he had some serious talent. But had he made the right decision by quitting all his other endeavors? Well, his mother may not have thought so, but one man did. This man happened to be Guy Fricklin, a former driver and the person tasked with staging Citroën's sports comeback into the WRC in the early 2000s. Soon after watching Loeb rip apart the amateur leagues, an impressed Fricklin gave him the opportunity to participate in the Junior World Rally Championship in 2001. And, well, you guessed it, he won that too. The following year, he had achieved what many of us can only dream about. He'd successfully turned his passion for fast cars into what could potentially be an extremely lucrative career in motorsport. The young 20-something left behind the balance beam and instead found himself behind the wheels of a car developed by engineer Jean-Claude Vauquat, in a team helmed by Guy Fricklin, and in a story written by Lady Luck herself. So, by 2002, the world may have lost out on an electrical engineer, but rally's fortunes had turned. Loeb was introduced as a driver with the Citroën Total World Rally Team. It took Cristiano Ronaldo 61 seconds to score his first goal for Real Madrid, and Britney Spears just one song to cement herself as an icon of a generation. It took just one attempt for astronauts Buzz Aldrin and Neil Armstrong to land on the moon, and it took Loeb just one race to make heads turn. In the first race of his first season, Loeb came storming out of the gates, finishing the prestigious Monte Carlo rally in first place. And even though the victory was later handed over to second-place Tommi Mäkinen after Citroën received a 2-minute time penalty for an illegal tire change, this was a pretty stunning way to prove that a career as an electrician was just a backup. Loeb didn't have to wait too long for his first official win, either. A few races later, at the Rallye Deutschland, he beat a Peugeot driven by former world champion Richard Burns to take the top step of the podium for the first time. That season, Loeb went on to finish 10th in the driver's standings, a pretty impressive feat, considering Citroën had decided to only participate in 8 out of 14 rounds that year, and that Loeb hadn't spent his entire childhood being primed for the track. In 2003, Loeb entered his first full season in the World Rally Championship as a Citroën driver. The competition was stiff, with former world champions like Carlos Sainz, Colin McRae, and Richard Burns featuring in the heavy-hitting lineup of drivers. Incredibly, Loeb went on to finish the season in second place. But more astonishingly, this would also be the last time he would ever finish a season of the WRC outside of first place for the next decade. In 2004, he won the first of his historic run of 9 consecutive WRC titles. To celebrate, he did a backflip on the podium, putting an official end to his career as a gymnast and establishing himself as a motor racer through and through. Every champion needs a trusty chariot. Michael Schumacher had his Ferrari, and Dale Earnhardt had his Chevrolet. Tom Christensen had his Audi, and Sébastien Loeb had Citroën. While books can be written about the man's talent and decisiveness on track, it's impossible to ignore Citroën's contribution to this utter dominance. Over the years, the manufacturer's talented team of engineers and designers developed a lineup of masterpieces, each in a league of its own, and worthy of its own independent video. The first of these noble steeds was the Citroën Zara WRC, a car that Loeb successfully piloted to claim his first 3 World Rally Championships in 2004, 2005, and 2006. Now, creating a car that wins a hat trick of driver's titles will always be pretty impressive. But the Citroën Zara WRC wasn't just going up against some low-budget offerings. Instead, this three-peat came during a period when rally was undergoing a technological renaissance of sorts. The lineup that year featured cars like the Ford Focus, Mitsubishi Lancer, Hyundai Accent, and Peugeot 206. So there was no doubt that the Zara WRC was a machine calibrated to match Loeb's talent, and coincidentally, one of the most dominant rally cars ever made. It won a total of 32 races at the World Rally Championship, 28 of which were at the hands of Sébastien Loeb. But, as it turns out, the Zara WRC was just a teaser of what was to come. In 2007, Citroën put Loeb behind the wheels of the C4 WRC and showed the world what happens when the perfect driver meets the perfect car. Now, let's get one thing clear. This car had as much in common with the road-going C4 hatchback as a Land Rover has with the Mars Rover. This wasn't a car you'd use to buy groceries on the weekend. The beefed-up beast was one of the most mechanically sound and quickest cars to have ever graced motorsport. The C4 WRC put down 320 horsepower courtesy of its 4-cylinder turbocharged engine. Its interiors were far less comfortable than its road-going version, as you would expect, but its performance was miles ahead. Citroën had introduced an advanced, highly adaptable suspension system that allowed the team to fine-tune the car and appropriately adjust the handling for a range of surfaces. In addition to this, the C4 was also given a state-of-the-art electronic management system which ensured the C4's engine, traction control, and differential settings were all optimized. All of these ingredients created the beef bourguignon of WRC cars, left you wanting more every time. The Citroën team, including Loeb, were able to modify the C4 for each stage to maximize the chance of a race win. And boy did that work. The C4 won 36 out of 56 races it entered, giving it an impressive 64% win rate, and this included a 100% win rate on asphalt, putting it in the same league as legendary vehicles like the Audi Quattro and Subaru Impreza. Moreover, the car was reliable. Now, I can already see the confusion on your face, and I know what you're thinking. Citroën? Reliable? But this WRC version was a different animal. It was so dependable that during the 2010 series, it scored points in every single event of the year. This is an extremely rare feat, one that motorsport engineers and top drivers dream of achieving all through their careers. In the 4 years that it ran, the C4 doubled up as both the metaphorical tortoise and hare, winning a staggering 4 drivers and 3 constructors titles. Then, after the 2010 season, when the C4 was retired, Citroën produced yet another potential entrant in any motorsport magazine's list of the most successful rally cars. It created the DS3 WRC, which the capable Loeb used to win the last of his 2 back-to-back titles and officially cap off a run that saw him win a shocking 9 consecutive seasons. But despite both the DS3 WRC and the Zara WRC achieving what very few other machines in the world can, the car most associated with Sébastien Loeb will forever be the C4. As Jean-Marc Gales, a member of the managing board of PSA Peugeot Citroën, put it, Sébastien Loeb and Citroën are like Paris and the Eiffel Tower. They belong together. Over in Formula 1, as reigning champion Max Verstappen continues to win race after race by pretty significant margins, there's a refrain we're hearing a lot more in the news media. Dominance is bad for motorsport. And if that statement holds true for Verstappen, who is only on his way to his 4th consecutive championship, then what Sébastien Loeb pulled off was nothing short of devastating for the sport. Loeb won his 9 drivers' titles between 2004 and 2012, eclipsing achievements like Tom Christensen's 4 Le Mans wins on the trot and Giacomo Agostini's 58 straight wins in MotoGP. When this video was made, Loeb had won a total of 80 rally events, many of which came during this era and courtesy of the partnership with Citroën. But it wasn't just the fact that he was winning that propelled him to world fame, it was the way he was doing it. For many races, it almost seemed like he could have stepped out of his car, somersaulted across the finish line, and still taken the top step of the podium. He proved this during the 2005 Monte Carlo race, when he stalled and spun his Zara, but still won by a significant margin. Loeb's career is littered with similar headline-grabbing achievements. In 2007, he showed up to Monaco while still recovering from an arm injury that he sustained in a mountain bike accident a few months prior. Despite not having been in a rally car for 4 months and being put in the then brand new C4, he led every stage of the race from start to finish. Then, in 2010, he even gave his home fans more to cheer about when he clinched his 7th consecutive title in his hometown of Haguenau, Alsace. Not that there was much suspense involved that season, considering he won the driver's title with a record 105 points over his closest competitor, Jari-Matti Latvala. Time and time again, Loeb and Citroën proved to be unstoppable, with many championships during the 9-year run decided long before the last few races had even begun. In this period, Loeb became the first driver to win 6 consecutive rallies and then the first to win 7 in a season, breaking his own previous record. He also became the first driver to win every stage of a WRC rally and the first to win 8 victories at the same event in a year. Then, in his last full season at the WRC, 2012, he won 10 out of 13 events, becoming the first ever driver to pull off 10 wins in a single season. The Loeb and Citroën partnership was a dream come true, if your dreams involve looking at the same faces on the podium time and time again. Like a King Midas of motorsport, everything Loeb touched was gold. The fact that he was a beast on the tarmac was well documented, but stunning wins in the snow and on the gravel proved that he was far from a track specialist. He was a machine collecting trophy after trophy and leaving the competition wondering how their luck had dried up. Now, this brings us to a pertinent question, one that's been asked many times over the years. Did these years of dominance ruin rallying? Well, the honest answer is possibly yes. Fans no longer needed to tune into the race to know who was leading, and manufacturers quickly shifted their attention to other forms of motorsport. In fact, when Loeb joined the WRC, it was packed full of prestigious manufacturers fighting for the top spot, including Mitsubishi, Peugeot, Subaru, and Škoda. When he retired, only 3 teams remained: Ford, Citroën, and Mini. It was almost as if other car makers were scared to go up against Loeb and Citroën. or they simply realized there was no point spending insane amounts of money on creating a car that would, at best, only take home silver. Loeb didn't just add multiple trophies to his own cabinet. He triggered a massive shift in the rally racing scene altogether. Between 1997 and 2002, 4 separate manufacturers claimed WRC titles. Once the Loeb-Citroën partnership took over, that figure fell to 2 for the next whole decade. Then 2013 rolled around, and a 39-year-old Loeb decided to call it quits. After scribbling his name on almost every WRC record and leaving every challenger stranded by the wayside, he stepped back and decided not to contest a full season for the first time since 2002. We can only imagine how relieved the fans would have been to see a different name on the Drivers' Championship trophy for the first time in 9 years. But in a situation so frustrating, it's almost comical. It would take more than half a decade more for that to happen. Soon after Loeb retired from his full-time WRC duties, he handed over the reins to another Frenchman named Sébastien. From 2013 onward, Sébastien Ogier won 6 WRC titles in a row, making it an official total of 15 drivers' titles for the two Sébastiens. But while Ogier firmly took over the top step of the podium, it still wouldn't be all we'd see from Loeb at the WRC. Months after he announced his retirement, he returned for 4 races in the 2013 season, and it won't surprise you to learn that he was on the podium for every single one of those races, twice as the winner. In fact, after just 4 races, Loeb had secured 8th place in that year's Drivers' Championship. To think, none of this would have happened if Loeb had stuck to doing backflips. Even as Loeb was giving manufacturers at the WRC a migraine that lasted almost a decade, he didn't hesitate to try his hand in other categories of motorsport. You know, just in case he suddenly figured out that he was a champion on the motorcycle as well. In 2007, Loeb ran tests for the Renault Formula One team, and in 2008, Red Bull Racing conducted tests that established Loeb as the 8th fastest driver out of 17 runners. The team's chief engineer said his time was fast enough to place Loeb in the midfield of Formula One's 20-odd driver pack. Now sure, that doesn't sound as impressive as 9 consecutive rally titles, but F1 is a different beast. Drivers who make it to the pinnacle of this form of motorsport usually begin their karting days soon after they learn how to walk. In fact, we've even seen otherwise excellent drivers struggle to start Formula One cars time and time again. So, for an upstart gymnastics enthusiast, budding engineer, and rally champion, even managing to complete 80 laps is a staggering achievement, let alone come close to the timings of greats like David Coulthard and Mark Webber. His laps were so impressive that Loeb was even slated to make his debut with Red Bull's sister team, Toro Rosso, at the Abu Dhabi race in 2009, but plans had to be scrapped after he failed to secure enough super license points. So Loeb left Formula One to the Sebastian Vettels and Sebastian Buemis, and conquered other forms of motorsport. In 2005, Loeb entered his first 24 hours of Le Mans as the Pescarolo Sports number 17 entry. Some reports have mentioned that he trained for what's considered one of the most taxing races in the world by running practice laps in Gran Turismo 4 on a PlayStation 2 in a private jet. Now, to every teenager out there whose ears pricked up after hearing that statement, it gets even better. His virtual practice runs enabled him to finish the following year's Le Mans in 2nd place between the 2 diesel Audi R10s. By 2006, Sébastien Loeb was practically playing Gran Turismo in easy mode in real life. By 2012, he started the Sébastien Loeb Racing Team, which entered into a variety of races across the World Rallycross Championship, World Touring Car Cup, Porsche Carrera Cup France, 208 Rally Cup, and the World Touring Car Championship. The same year, he won the Rallycross final in his first appearance at the X Games 18 in Los Angeles. After he retired from full-time rallying in 2013, Loeb got behind the wheel of a Peugeot 208 T16 in a bid to conquer the Pikes Peak International Hill Climb. Much to the surprise of absolutely no one, he shattered the record held by Rhys Millen by over a minute on his first try. The same year, he finished 4th overall in the FIA GT Series with Loeb Racing, and by 2015, he had completed 2 seasons of the World Touring Car Championship, where he won 6 races. In 2022, he added another feather to his cap, becoming the oldest driver to lead and win a WRC rally event in Monaco. His co-driver, Isabelle Galmiche, on her part, became the first woman co-driver to win an event since 1997. Now, this is a lot of records and appearances to keep up with, and you'll be forgiven for zoning out midway through that list, but that's the thing with Sébastien Loeb. It's absolutely impossible to talk about his career without eventually turning the conversation into a Wikipedia entry of motorsport accomplishments. The most insane bit here is that we haven't even mentioned every one of Loeb's achievements yet. We'll save that one for a Netflix original spanning 6 seasons. Over the years, many have tried to figure out Loeb's secret. There's no way he's just naturally that good, right? Surely there must be something in the water he drinks or a secret turbo boost button in the Citroen that no other driver's found yet. But almost everyone who's investigated this theory has come to the same conclusion. It all boils down to pure talent. Loeb suited driving like a fish suits water. The driver was so skilled that all through his 9 years of dominance, he never even seemed to break a sweat. And he wasn't arrogant about it either. In fact, he always came across as super laid back and almost shy in interviews. He never threw down the gauntlet to other drivers or boasted about his supremacy. On non-race days, he would be photographed casually drinking beer and smoking cigarettes. It's almost as if he'd grown bored of his own dominance and was covertly urging someone to step up to the plate so he could be challenged once again. Today, as Loeb enters his 50s, we'll probably have to accept that it's highly unlikely we ever see a driver this dominant again. And even if we do, we'll never get to see them go up against Loeb in his prime. So, we'll just have to accept for now that Sébastien Loeb, the backflipping electrician, leveraged a combination of luck and generational talent to officially be crowned the greatest WRC driver ever.